Hello, my dear listeners. My name is Kishore Ganesh, and this is gonna be a pod on some of the things that I wanted to put to mic post watching the Flash film. This is not the review is already out on all the channels. This is more of a spoiler discussion. So if you have not watched the film, check out my review, watch the film, and then come on over to this pod. And now, without any further ado, let's begin. Let's start with the main structural theme of this film: time travel. The thing that I like the most about this film's take on time travel is that it presents it in the way that it would most likely turn out to be if time travel were to be real or true. At least that's what I think. Allow me to explain. Now, I don't mean that time travel would be possible using the speed force, or that you'll come across characters that look like cartoons if you end up time traveling. What I'm going for here is that if time travel was a natural phenomenon, it will be like any other event in the universe, in that it will not be guided or guarded by a sentient organism or an organization as they show it in Marvel. There would be no consequences enforced by a sentient being except for the consequences caused by the phenomenon of cause and effect. And there would definitely not be an artificial limit to the number of times you would be able to time travel. We, as fans of films, have been kind of trained to believe that there are limits to time travel in terms of some permanent damage that could be caused by the time traveler, or there are limits to the number of times that one can travel, and yet again, these limits would be enforced by some sentient being. In The Flash, however, this phenomenon is treated as a purely physical one, which can be tapped into whenever one needs to, provided they can achieve that. And what's more, the consequences to the actions that one carries out post ending up in the past or the future is pretty much self contained in that new universe that they end up creating. There is no the time space continuum is collapsing because of this act of yours. In this film, for example, no matter what Barry does, he is just not able to change the outcomes in case of his mom and dad, no matter how much or how often Barry tries to change it. And in that sense, the Flash's stance on time travel is extremely pragmatic and quite relatable even to us mere mortals who don't have any superpowers. You cannot change the past, so don't dwell on it to the extent that it controls your future. Instead, take control of the present and thereby the future. As much as the past is painful, it is what has shaped you, and by working to become a person you are proud of, you don't just accept the past, you break its hold over you, and more importantly, do justice to yourself, your present, and your future. That seems to be the message of The Flash. In a very long winded way, The Flash says that you can't change the past, but you can create a future that you desire. So, get started on that. Despite being a movie about superhumans with the ability to impact the entire universe and bend the laws of physics, at its core, its essence, this film is about an individual trying to come to terms with the trauma from his past. And isn't that one hell of a core? I also like the cameos of some of the underrepresented Supermen from over the years, in addition to Henry Cavill, of course. Christopher Reeve's appearance is a nice nod, and so is Henry Cavill's what appears to be final appearance in this universe. But what took me aback was the appearance of Nick Cage's Superman finally showing up on the big screen. Additionally, there is an OG Superman played by George Reeves in black and white, who portrayed the character before Christopher Reeve. This bit of Superman history was unknown to me before the cameo, so good on DC for this. One interesting point that I did want to touch upon is how in Michael Keaton's universe, Gotham is crime free to the point that Batman is put out of business. But at the end of the film, it is made clear that this Earth where this Gotham exists is meant to be destroyed by the Kryptonians, which in a way means that if there was to be a Gotham that is crime free, one that didn't need Batman, then that may be good for Gotham, but it's sure as hell not good for the Earth. Therefore, a crime ridden hellhole of a Gotham is not just necessary for Batman, but it is necessary for the existence of the planet. And if you extend that by a bit, you can say that a Batman retirement essentially spells doom for the planet. Of course, one can say that if not Gotham, Batman can fight crime elsewhere, so there is that. However, it is funny to think that for the survival of the planet, Gotham needs to spend eternity in purgatory. Good guy Gotham, taking one for the team. And the final point that I want to touch upon is the way that the writers have actually sculpted the script to stand the scrutiny of the many, many rabid fans out there. To this point, I would like to present the following evidence. Right at the end of the film, the Flash tries to outsmart the physics of DC yet again. Or maybe that wasn't his intention. Maybe it was just an innocent brainwave where Barry puts the tomatoes on the top shelf for his father to pick up instead of their original position at the bottom shelf. He does this so that the dad can look at the security camera, which would ensure his release. Now, had this been allowed to happen, can you imagine the posts upon posts online with titles to the effect of, quote, logical loophole in DC's The Flash, end quote, quote, DC blows it at the end in The Flash, end quote, could have even appeared in Amazon's X-ray feature as a mistake if the movie ever ended up on Prime Video. Instead, by cleverly leading the audience to a false happy ending, the writers have managed a masterstroke to give the producers, the studio, and the majority of the moviegoers what they want, and simultaneously have used it to incorporate two more staggering cameos. With this, the writers have remained loyal to the nerds and logic, and that's something that deserves high praise in my universe. Now I feel like I've gotten a lot of things off my chest. And that's me, Kishore Ganesh, your host of the Vocal About Visuals podcast. Thank you, my dear listeners, for your time and for listening. Please do give this podcast a follow on your preferred podcast platforms and on YouTube. Consider following me on Twitter and Instagram at Podcast Plural, where I continue to talk about films, TV, anime, the world, and also on Instagram, I'm continuing to do my one-shot review of movies that I don't end up doing a podcast for. I will also be leaving a link to the Linktree in the description of this podcast, which will house all the links related to the pod. Thank you.